The sky above Zithra was painted in shades of deep violet and gold, a constant swirl of strange clouds that seemed alive. Princess Lyra, heir to the Galactic Kingdom, peered out from the observation deck of the starship Aurora's Edge, her silver hair catching the soft glow of the alien sun. She had visited many worlds, but Zithra was unlike any she had seen. The planet was untamed, wild, and full of life that refused to bend to humans or technology. Beside her, the crew buzzed with energy. Scientists adjusted instruments, security officers checked their equipment, and explorers whispered about the strange readings from the research outpost they were to visit. But Lyra's attention was on one figure at the back of the room. Kale. Kale was young, barely more than a year into the Galactic Defense Corps, and this was his first mission outside the inner systems. He carried himself with a mix of nervous excitement and determination, gripping his scanning device as if it were a lifeline. Lyra raised an eyebrow. A rookie, she thought, sent here among seasoned veterans. This is going to be interesting. The landing shuttle hummed as it descended through Zithra's thick atmosphere. Below, jagged mountains rose like teeth, and endless forests spread in every direction. Strange bioluminescent plants glowed faintly, lighting the dark patches of the jungle. Lyra felt a thrill she had not felt in years. This was what exploration was about: the unknown, the untamed, the unpredictable. Stay alert, she said to the team as the shuttle touched down on a rocky plateau near the outpost. The land was scarred with old craters and what looked like claw marks too large to be human. Sensors show unusual activity in the nearby jungle. This is not a world to underestimate. Kale followed closely behind, his heart racing. He tried not to look as nervous as he felt. He had trained for this, studied alien behaviors, memorized survival techniques, but standing here, in the raw wilderness of a planet no human had fully mapped, felt completely different. The outpost was in ruins. Walls cracked, equipment scattered, and the main communication tower bent at an impossible angle. Lyra frowned. This is worse than I expected. Whatever happened here, it wasn't natural. A sharp screech echoed from the jungle, causing the team to freeze. Birds? No, these sounds were too deep, too resonant. Something larger moved between the trees, unseen but felt. Lyra's hand rested on her sidearm, a reflex that spoke of years of training. Kel's hands tightened around his scanning device, his mind racing to recall every lesson he had learned. One of the security officers, a veteran named Rand, whispered, "We're not alone." His eyes scanned the trees. His body tensed like a coiled spring. The others nodded silently, weapons ready. Kale felt a bead of sweat run down his temple. This is not a training simulation, he thought. This is real. Lyra moved forward, signaling the team to spread out. We search, but stay together. Observe everything, and Kale watch and learn. You'll need to move quickly if things go south. She said it with authority, but there was a subtle edge of skepticism in her voice. Kale felt his stomach twist. She didn't believe he could handle this, and maybe she was right. But he refused to show fear. As they entered the jungle, the air grew thick, humid, and heavy with the scent of alien flora. Every leaf seemed larger than Earth's, every shadow darker, almost alive. Kale's scanner beeped intermittently, picking up movement too fast for the eye to follow. Lyra noticed it but said nothing, allowing him to sweat under her gaze. Hours passed as they moved carefully through the dense forest. Strange creatures skittered away from their path, small, insect-like animals with reflective shells, and bird-like predators that flapped silently above the canopy. Kale noted every movement, every sound, trying to interpret patterns. Lyra, meanwhile, led with a mix of caution and decisiveness, scanning the terrain for dangers her instincts told her were coming. Then, it happened. A low growl rolled through the trees, vibrating in the air like distant thunder. The team froze. The hairs on Kel's arms stood on end. From the shadows, a massive shape emerged. Its eyes glowed faint blue, and its body was covered in thick, scale-like armor. It had 4 legs, long claws, and a tail that could easily knock over a tree. It was enormous, far larger than any predator Kale had seen in simulations or textbooks. Lyra raised her hand, signaling the team to hold. Stay calm, observe, she reminded herself. But her pulse raced. This was no ordinary animal. This was a predator at the top of the food chain, one that had ruled Zithra long before humans ever arrived. Kale froze, unsure whether to raise his weapon or retreat. But then, instinct took over. He stepped slightly to the side, crouched, and slowly extended a hand in a non-threatening gesture. His scanner picked up vibrations in the ground, a silent rhythm in the predator's movement. He matched it solely with his own. The predator tilted its head, studying him. Kale's heart pounded. Don't panic. Don't move too fast. Let it decide your intentions. For a long moment, it just stared. The rest of the team tensed, ready to fire at the first sign of aggression. Lyra's eyes widened. She had seen many warriors in her life, but this rookie, this inexperienced boy, stood there as if he belonged to the wild. Then, unexpectedly, the predator turned and disappeared back into the shadows. The growl faded, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves. The team exhaled as one, relief washing over them. Lyra looked at Kale, who was still frozen in place. "Did you do that?" she asked. Her voice held a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Kale swallowed hard. I don't know. I just tried not to scare it." Lyra's skepticism began to shift into cautious interest. Maybe he's not just a rookie, she thought. Maybe he sees the world in a way I've forgotten. They continued deeper into the jungle, every step now more deliberate. Kale's confidence grew as he noticed patterns in the wildlife, the way creatures avoided certain areas, the subtle signals predators gave to each other. He realized that survival here wasn't about weapons or armor. It was about understanding. By evening, they reached a clearing where the remains of the research outpost were concentrated. Broken equipment, scorched walls, and claw marks scarred every surface. Lyra's team began documenting everything, but Kale couldn't stop looking around. Sensing the unseen eyes that followed them from the jungle's edge, "Princess," Rand said, lowering his weapon slightly, "I don't like it here. Something big is watching us." "Too big to be normal." Lyra nodded, understanding the warning but determined to continue. "We're here to learn, not fight," she said firmly. "We move carefully, we observe, and we survive." Kale moved toward the edge of the clearing, scanning the shadows. He noticed a faint pattern in the predator's movements, almost like it was circling, waiting. His heart beat faster. "I think they're testing us," he said quietly. Lyra glanced at him, surprised by the insight. "Testing us? Rookies usually panic," she said, a faint smile forming. "Perhaps you're learning faster than I expected." The sky darkened as Zithra's sun dipped behind the mountains. Strange, glowing insects rose from the forest floor, their light reflecting off Kale's determined face. The team made camp in the clearing, wary but alert. Kale sat near the edge of the firelight, eyes scanning the jungle. He knew this was just the beginning. That night, as the team slept uneasily, Kale dreamed of glowing eyes, massive forms, and a silent, unspoken acknowledgement from the predators. When he woke, the first light of Zithra's sun painted the sky in orange and purple streaks. He felt a strange calmness and understanding that today he would face more than fear. He would face respect, trust, and perhaps the beginning of a bond with Zithra itself. Princess Lyra watched him from across the campfire, still cautious, still thinking of him as a rookie, but a rookie who had survived the first test, where many seasoned warriors might have fallen. She wondered what the jungle would teach him next, and somewhere in the shadowed trees, the apex predators watched too, curious about this young human who had neither run nor fought, but had stood his ground. The real journey had just begun. The morning on Zithra began with a strange stillness. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, and even the usual chorus of alien birds and insects was muted. Princess Lyra woke early, her silver hair brushing her shoulders as she stretched and surveyed the horizon. The jagged mountains glowed with violet light, and mist clung to the trees like a living blanket. Kale was already awake. He had positioned himself near the edge of the clearing, scanning the jungle with quiet intensity. The night had been restless. He could still feel the presence of the apex predators lingering at the edge of the camp. Something about them was different. They were not mindless. They were intelligent, observant, and cautious. Kale's instincts told him that today they might act. Lyra approached him, her steps light but deliberate. "You didn't sleep much," she observed. Are you ready for the next phase? Kale nodded, though his stomach churned with nerves. I think I understand them a little better now. I just hope it's enough. Lyra studied him for a moment. We'll see. She gave a slight smile and turned toward the team. Pack up. Today we head to the northern ridge. That's where the outpost signals were strongest. The team moved carefully through the jungle, stepping over twisted roots and glowing plants. Every movement was slow, deliberate. Lyra led, with Kale slightly behind her, scanning constantly. As they went deeper, the air became heavier, thick with moisture and the scent of unknown vegetation. Every shadow seemed alive. Suddenly, Kale's scanner beeped rapidly. He froze, raising a hand to signal the team. Lyra stopped immediately, eyes narrowing. What is it? She asked. Kale's voice was quiet but firm. Something large, moving fast. It's close. The trees shook as a massive shape crashed through the undergrowth. The apex predator from the night before appeared, even larger than Kale remembered. Its eyes glowed bright blue, and its claws tore into the earth as it moved. The team instinctively formed a defensive line, weapons raised. Hold, Lyra commanded. Observe first. Do not fire unless it attacks. The predator stopped at the edge of the clearing. It tilted its head, studying the humans. Its low growl vibrated through the ground, warning them without aggression. The team's hearts raced. Kel's fingers tightened around his scanner. He could feel the predator's curiosity, its intelligence. Kel stepped forward slightly, raising one hand in a slow, open gesture. He remembered what had worked yesterday. The predator's eyes followed him, but it did not move closer or attack. Kel's mind raced. It's testing us, just like before. It wants to see if we respect its space. One of the security officers, Ran, whispered sharply. We can't just let it watch us. It could charge at any moment. Lyra shook her head. No, we wait. Patience is stronger than bullets here. Kel slowly lowered his scanner and crouched slightly, matching the predator's subtle shifts in posture. His heart pounded, but he focused on the rhythm of its movement. Slowly, the predator took a cautious step forward, sniffing the air. Kale held his ground, steady and calm. Then something unexpected happened. The predator let out a low, almost approving rumble and took another step back, turning slightly as if inviting Kale to follow. Kale glanced at Lyra. Her eyes widened, but she remained silent. He motioned for the team to follow him slowly, keeping their movements careful and measured. The predator did not attack. Instead, it began to move along the edge of the clearing, circling them, watching every step. Kale led them through the jungle, careful to respect the predator's path. He noticed subtle signs, broken branches indicating where the predator had been, flattened grass showing its movement, and faint chemical markers in the soil. He guided the team with confidence, reading the jungle like a map. Hours passed. The team encountered smaller predators, creatures that darted quickly through the trees. But Kel's observations kept them safe. He noticed patterns in the way they moved, where they hunted, and when they avoided certain areas. His training had taught him the basics, but his intuition and careful observation were proving more valuable than any weapon. Lyra watched him closely. You're learning fast, she admitted, almost reluctantly. Faster than I expected. Kale glanced at her, a small smile forming. I'm just trying to understand them, not fight them. Their path eventually led to a narrow canyon where the outpost signals were strongest. Broken pieces of technology and old shelters littered the ground. The predators had left no traces here, but Kale noticed subtle signs of their previous presence, marks on the rocks, and faint indentations in the soil. Suddenly, a deep roar echoed through the canyon. The sound was terrifying, vibrating through the ground and walls. From above, a massive predator dropped silently from a ledge, landing with the grace of a panther but the power of a tank. Its eyes glowed brighter, and it bared sharp teeth. The team froze. Kale felt his pulse spike. This was the moment they had been preparing for. The first real encounter with the apex predators. Lyra raised her hand. Stay calm. Do not provoke it. Kale took a deep breath. He remembered the patterns he had seen, the subtle cues that predators gave when testing or hunting. He crouched slightly, making himself appear smaller but alert. He extended one hand slowly, open and non-threatening. The predator circled him, sniffing and observing. Its gaze was sharp, intelligent, and calculating. Kel's mind raced. He had to show dominance without aggression, respect without fear. He moved slowly, matching the predator's subtle body language, shifting weight, adjusting posture, and keeping his movements smooth. The predator growled low but did not attack. Kel's confidence grew. He signaled to the team to follow his lead, and they did, stepping carefully, moving as one unit. Slowly, the predator began to back away, not in fear, but in recognition. Kel had earned a small measure of trust. Lyra watched in awe. The rookie, whom she had doubted, had done something she had never seen even among her most experienced warriors. He had faced the apex predator and emerged not by fighting, but by understanding. Hours later, they reached the northern ridge. The view was breathtaking. Zithra's jungle stretched endlessly below, a living, breathing ocean of green, violet, and gold. Kel stood beside Lyra, breathing heavily but steady, his eyes scanning the horizon. Rand approached him. "I can't believe it. You just commanded a predator's respect." Without a weapon, Kel shook his head. "I didn't command anything. I listened. I observed. That's all." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Today you've proven yourself. Maybe not to me yet, but to this world, you're no longer just a rookie." Kel smiled faintly, still exhausted but proud. He had faced the unknown and survived. The apex predators had tested him, and he had passed. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the jungle, the team made camp on the ridge. Kel sat quietly, watching the distant trees. Somewhere out there, the predators moved, observing, calculating, waiting. He felt a strange connection to them, a bond formed not through force, but through understanding. Lyra joined him, her expression thoughtful. "The predators didn't attack today. That means they respect you, in some way. Or at least, they understand you." Kel nodded. "It's strange. I don't feel like I conquered them. I feel like I learned from them." Lyra smiled faintly. "Perhaps that's the most important lesson. Strength isn't just about power. Sometimes it's about perception, understanding, and patience. And you have all of that." That night, as Zithra's twin moons rose over the jungle, Kel drifted into sleep. He dreamt of glowing eyes, silent movements, and the feeling of massive creatures acknowledging him without aggression. When he woke, he would be ready for the next challenge. The jungle, vast and untamed, had tested him and he had passed. This was only the beginning. Zithra had more lessons to teach, and Kel was ready to learn them. The morning light on Zithra filtered through the thick canopy, painting the jungle floor in shades of green and gold. Princess Lyra stirred from her sleep, glancing at Kel, who was already awake, sitting on a fallen log near the campfire. His scanner rested beside him, but his eyes were fixed on the dense trees beyond the ridge. "Still watching them?" Lyra asked softly. Kel nodded. "They're out there, always watching. I can feel it." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Feeling it? You're starting to sound like one of them." Kel smiled faintly. "I don't know. Maybe that's what survival here is. You listen, you watch, and you learn. You don't just fight." Lyra remained silent, intrigued. The rookie she had dismissed only 2 days ago now seemed almost in tune with the jungle. And with the predators. After a quick breakfast, the team set out toward the deeper jungle. Their goal was to investigate a large, ancient structure detected by their scanners near the northern ridge. The outpost had been destroyed, but traces of unknown technology hinted at a past civilization. Possibly Zithra's original inhabitants. The path was treacherous. Giant roots twisted across the ground, and the air was thick with humidity. Strange birds with shimmering feathers glided overhead, their calls echoing eerily. Small predators darted in and out of the shadows. But Kel noticed the signs that marked safe passages. He led the team carefully, pointing out subtle clues, crushed leaves in certain patterns, claw marks that indicated a warning, and broken branches that signaled predator movement. Lyra observed him closely. "You're doing more than surviving," she said quietly. "You're understanding them. The jungle, the predators. It's like you belong here." Kel shrugged. "I don't belong here. I'm just trying not to die." Lyra chuckled softly, shaking her head. Humility will not save you, Kale. Knowledge and awareness will. And so far, you have both. They pressed on, following a narrow path that wound between towering trees. The further they went, the more they noticed the signs of Zithra's apex predators. Massive footprints pressed into the soil, trees scarred by claws, and the faint, sweet scent of their presence in the air. Suddenly, Kale froze. He crouched slightly, placing a finger to his lips. The team stopped instantly. A low, resonant growl vibrated through the air, coming from the shadows just a few meters away. A predator stepped into view, its scales shimmering under the sunlight, its glowing blue eyes fixed on Kale. The team tensed, but Kale remained calm. He remembered the last encounter and the subtle ways the predators communicated through posture, eye movement, and vibrations in the ground. Slowly, he extended a hand in a gentle, open gesture. The predator tilted its head, growled softly, and then did something unexpected. It stepped back, lowering its body slightly, as if acknowledging him. Kale's heart raced. They're recognizing me, he thought. Not as a threat, not as prey, but as something else. Lyra watched in amazement. This is incredible, she whispered. You've done what no one else has. You've connected with them. Kale nodded, careful not to break the silent understanding between him and the creature. It's not connection in words, he said quietly. It's respect. We exist in the same space. That's all. The predator gave a final rumble and retreated into the shadows. Kale exhaled slowly, the tension leaving his body. They're curious, he said, but cautious. Very cautious, the team continued, more confident now that Kale could sense the predator movements before they became dangerous. As they approached the ancient structure, it became clear that this place was more than just ruins. The walls were covered in carvings of creatures similar to the apex predators, and glowing symbols marked entrances and passages. Kale paused at the base of the structure, scanning the carvings. These symbols, they look like a form of communication, he said. The predators might be connected to this place somehow. They could be protecting it. Lyra nodded slowly. It makes sense. The outpost was destroyed, yet no predator attacked us inside the last clearing. Maybe they know this place is sacred. Kale studied the symbols carefully, noting patterns that mirrored predator movements. He realized that Zithra's apex predators were not mindless beasts, they were guardians. They had rules, territories, and responsibilities that even humans had not fully understood. Princess, Kale said, pointing to a series of carvings near a massive stone doorway. Look at this. These creatures are shown in patterns. They seem to be coordinating, like a hierarchy. Maybe there's a leader. Lyra leaned closer. A leader, you mean? A single apex predator directs the others? Kale nodded. Possibly, or at least influences them. And if that's true, understanding the leader could help us move safely. They entered the structure cautiously. The interior was dark, the air thick with the scent of ancient stone and moss. Strange carvings adorned the walls, depicting scenes of harmony between creatures and humans or humanoid beings like them. Kale traced the carvings with his fingers, imagining the lives of those who had built this place. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the floor. The team froze. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a deep growl echoed through the corridors. Kale's instincts told him that an apex predator was near, observing them. Stay calm. Kale whispered, It's not attacking, yet. It's testing us, like before. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Testing us? How can you tell? Kale crouched, scanning the vibrations in the ground. Predators don't always attack immediately. They watch first. They analyze movements, intentions, reactions. If we move wisely, we can pass without conflict. A massive shape emerged from the shadows, larger than any predator Kale had seen. Its glowing eyes focused on him, studying his posture, his calm movements, and the way he extended his hand in a non-threatening gesture. Kale remained still, steady, and respectful. The predator tilted its head and rumbled softly, a sound that resonated through the walls. Then, slowly, it stepped aside, allowing the team to move forward. Kale exhaled, relief washing over him. He had earned another measure of trust. As they explored deeper, Kale began to notice subtle cues in the structure itself. Symbols that glowed faintly in certain patterns seemed to align with predator behavior outside. He realized that the Zithrans, the original inhabitants, had studied the apex predators and established communication methods to coexist with them. Lyra watched him carefully. "You're piecing it together faster than anyone could have imagined," she said. "This rookie of mine, he might be the key to understanding Zithra." Kale shrugged, humility in his voice. "I'm just observing. The predators are teaching me more than I can teach them." Hours passed as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. They discovered chambers filled with relics, data pads containing information on Zithra's ecosystem, and tools designed to communicate with the apex predators. Kel's intuition guided the team safely, avoiding hidden traps and hazardous zones. At one point, they reached a central chamber dominated by a massive stone platform. The carvings depicted the apex predators in a majestic formation, as if bowing or acknowledging a leader. Kale studied it carefully, noting patterns that matched what he had observed in the jungle. "This must be their central gathering place," he said softly, "or at least a symbolic representation of it. Whoever or whatever leads them is respected here." Lyra nodded, impressed. Then understanding this place and them could change everything. The apex predators are not just beasts. They're intelligent, organized, and protective. And you're learning their ways. Kale felt a strange sense of pride mixed with awe. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear. Yet he had discovered a connection that others might never understand. He had become more than a rookie. He had become a bridge between humans and Zithra's apex predators. As they prepared to leave the structure and return to camp, Kale noticed movement at the edges of the chamber. Several smaller predators lingered in the shadows, curious but cautious. He extended a hand slowly, signaling peace. One by one, they stepped back, allowing the humans to exit safely. Lyra watched this exchange in silence, understanding that Kel's approach patience, respect. Observation was more powerful than any weapon. That night, back at camp, Kale sat by the fire, exhausted but exhilarated. The jungle around them hummed with life, the apex predators silently observing from the darkness. Kale felt a deep connection to this world, a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. Lyra joined him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the fire. "You've changed, Kale. You're no longer just a rookie. You've earned respect from this world and its guardians." Kale smiled faintly, looking out at the jungle. "I don't feel like I earned it. I feel like I'm learning it. Every step, every observation. I'm learning how to exist here." Lyra nodded. "Then perhaps that is the greatest lesson. Strength isn't always shown in force. Sometimes it's shown in understanding, patience, and respect. And today, you've shown all of that." The jungle whispered around them, alive with movement and hidden life. Somewhere in the shadows, the apex predators waited, silent, intelligent, and curious. Kale had passed their first true test, but Zithra had more to teach, and he was ready to listen. The bond between human and predator was forming, and the next challenges would prove whether it was strong enough to survive the untamed wilds of Zithra. The jungle of Zithra was alive with sound, the low hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, and the distant calls of alien birds filled the air. Princess Lyra led the team carefully through a narrow canyon that twisted deeper into the heart of the planet. Every shadow seemed to shift, and the team's senses were heightened. Kale walked slightly ahead, scanning the area with his scanner while observing the subtle signs of predator movement. "This is the place," Lyra whispered. "Our sensors picked up the strongest activity here. If the apex predators are testing us, it will be now." Kale nodded silently. He could feel the presence of something massive nearby, not just one predator but many, and one above them all. His heart raced, but he felt strangely calm. The connection he had begun to form with Zithra's guardians had taught him to trust observation over instinctive fear. The canyon opened into a massive clearing. In its center stood a stone platform, ancient and carved with glowing symbols. Surrounding the platform were the apex predators, their massive bodies sleek and powerful, their eyes glowing softly in shades of blue. And standing above them, larger than any creature Kale had seen, was the alpha, the leader. Its scales shimmered like liquid night, and its eyes glowed with intelligence, piercing and aware. Lyra's team froze. Weapons were raised, ready for attack, but Kale stepped forward slowly. "Wait," he whispered. "We don't need to fight." The Alpha's eyes fixed on Kale. It let out a low growl, deep and resonant, that vibrated through the clearing. The smaller predators circled closer, their gaze on the young rookie. Kale's mind raced. He had studied their behavior, their patterns, and their responses, but this was something entirely different. He crouched slightly, lowering himself to appear non-threatening. Slowly, he extended one hand, open, calm, and steady. His heart pounded, but he did not waver. The Alpha tilted its head, observing every movement. Kale mirrored the subtle sway of its body, adjusting his posture to show awareness and respect. A soft rumble came from the Alpha, like a low vibration through the ground. Kale could feel it. It was measuring him, testing his intentions. He stayed still, breathing evenly, exuding calm confidence. Lyra whispered from behind him, barely audible, "Kale, be careful. This is bigger than anything we've faced." Kale nodded slightly, though he knew the words were meant more for reassurance than advice. He understood that aggression here would be fatal. Survival depended on respect, observation, and connection. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. The Alpha stepped closer, lowering its massive head. Kale remained still, his gaze meeting the predators. He could see intelligence, their curiosity, evaluation, and a hint of acknowledgement. Then, the Alpha did something unexpected. It slowly backed away, moving to the side, allowing Kale to approach the platform. The smaller predators followed, forming a semicircle around them, but giving the rookie a clear path. Kale exhaled slowly. This was the true test of the Alpha's approval, not through violence, but through recognition. He stepped onto the stone platform, moving deliberately, showing confidence without threat. The glowing symbols beneath his feet seemed to react to his presence, illuminating faintly as if responding to him. Lyra watched, her eyes wide with amazement. He's doing it. He's connecting with them. He's respected. Kale reached the center of the platform. He looked at the Alpha, understanding that words were useless here. Respect was earned through calm, awareness, and courage. Slowly, he raised both hands, signaling peace and recognition. The Alpha rumbled again, a low vibration that resonated through the team and the clearing. Then, in a gesture that stunned everyone, the Alpha lowered its massive head in what could only be described as a bow. The smaller predators echoed the gesture, lowering themselves slightly in unison. Kale's heart raced, but he remained composed. He had earned their acknowledgement not by force, but by understanding. Lyra stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I underestimated you, Kale. You're not a rookie anymore." Kale shook his head slightly. "I didn't do this alone. They taught me. They're not enemies, they're teachers." The Alpha straightened, its glowing eyes fixed on Kale for a long moment before it retreated into the shadows of the jungle. The smaller predators following, the clearing fell silent, the tension lifting like a wave receding. From the shore, the team exhaled collectively. Lyra approached Kale, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Today, you've proven something extraordinary. You've faced the ultimate test and passed, not by fighting, but by understanding. You've earned their respect and mine." Kale smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. "It wasn't me. It was learning to see what they wanted, what they needed. We exist in their world, even if only temporarily, and they understand that now." Ran, the veteran officer, stepped forward, still in disbelief. "I've faced countless alien predators in my life, and I've never seen anything like that. You didn't fight. You didn't attack. You communicated." Kale shrugged. "Not communication like humans use. Connection, observation, respect." Lyra looked at the stone platform and the glowing symbols, realizing that this place had been a center of power and understanding long before humans arrived. The Zithrans had known the apex predators, studied them, and learned to coexist. Kale had found a way to do the same instinctively, naturally. The team spent the rest of the day exploring the structure further. They discovered chambers filled with ancient tools, data pads, and more carvings of apex predators. Kale studied the patterns carefully, noting how the symbols seemed to align with predator behavior. He realized that Zithra's guardians were not merely animals, they were intelligent beings with rules, hierarchy, and a system that had persisted for centuries. Lyra watched him quietly. You've done something no one else could. You've learned their ways and survived. You've connected with them on a level I didn't think was possible. Kel's expression was thoughtful. They're not enemies. They're part of this world. Just like us. If we respect them, they'll respect us. It's simple, but it's easy to forget and fear. By evening, the team prepared to leave the clearing. The predators watched from the jungle's edge. Silent but vigilant, Kale walked last, glancing back. The Alpha's eyes glowed faintly from the shadows, a silent acknowledgement of his presence. Lyra approached him. You've changed, Kale. The rookie I doubted has become something more. Perhaps this jungle, this world, and these predators have chosen you for a reason. Kale shook his head, smiling faintly. I'm just learning, princess. That's all. The sun set over the jungle, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The team camped nearby, but Kale remained at the edge of the clearing, observing the jungle with calm vigilance. The apex predators were still there, moving silently through the trees, intelligent, cautious, and curious. He felt a bond with them, a connection that transcended fear and violence. Lyra joined him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the campfire. The Alpha didn't attack. That's a victory beyond battle. You've earned trust where most would only find danger. Kale nodded. It's not victory. It's understanding. And the more I understand, the safer we are. That night, as Zithra's twin moons rose above the jungle, Kale dreamed of glowing eyes, massive forms, and silent acknowledgement. He had faced the ultimate test and emerged not through strength or skill alone, but through observation, empathy, and courage. The jungle whispered around them, alive with movement, hidden life, and silent intelligence. Kale had passed the Alpha's test, but he knew the journey was far from over. Zithra held more secrets, more challenges, and more lessons to teach, and Kale was ready. He was no longer a rookie. He was a bridge between humans and Zithra's apex predators. And the true adventure was just beginning. The first light of Zithra's sun spilled over the jungle, illuminating every leaf, every shadow, and every subtle movement of life. Princess Lyra and Kale stood at the edge of the northern ridge, gazing down at the sprawling jungle below. Their mission had taken them deep into Zithra, through danger, mystery, and the testing gaze of the apex predators. Kale was no longer the rookie who had stumbled through the first encounter. He had earned a place of respect, both with the predators and the team. We need to move, Lyra said, her tone steady. Sensors indicate that the ancient technology we were sent to locate is nearby. This is the heart of Zithra's secrets? Kale nodded. I can sense them too, he said, referring not only to the jungle, but to the predators that silently observe them from the shadows. They'll guide us if we respect the territory. The team followed Kale carefully as he led them along a path marked with subtle signs. Only he seemed to notice broken branches, faint tracks, and tiny disturbances in the foliage pointed the way. Lyra followed close, impressed at how he had begun to read the jungle like a map. After several hours, they arrived at a clearing dominated by a massive stone structure that seemed to pulse with faint energy. Strange glyphs lined the walls, glowing softly in a rhythm that felt almost alive. The air around them hummed, and Kale could feel the predator's eyes watching from the trees. This must be it, Lyra whispered. The Zithran technology. This is what the research outpost was trying to study. Kale stepped forward carefully, examining the glyphs. These patterns, they match the predator behaviors we've seen. It's a connection, a way to communicate or coexist with them. Whoever built this understood Zithra completely. The team spread out cautiously, documenting every symbol and artifact. Kale approached the central platform, where the largest glyphs pulsed with light. He reached out to touch them, feeling vibrations under his fingers that seemed to resonate with the jungle itself. Suddenly, a low growl sounded from the trees. The apex predators emerged, circling the clearing. Kale stood tall, hands open and calm. He had learned their language of observation and respect. The Alpha appeared last, towering and magnificent, its glowing eyes fixed on Kale. Lyra whispered, "Remember, Kale, Show them we are not a threat. Kale nodded. Slowly, he walked toward the central platform. The predators did not attack. They watched, curious, intelligent, and cautious. He extended his hands in a gesture of peace and respect, matching the rhythm of the glyphs beneath his feet. The alpha tilted its massive head, rumbled softly, and then stepped aside, allowing Kale to access the heart of the structure. The smaller predators mirrored the gesture, forming a protective perimeter rather than a threatening circle. Kale studied the mechanism at the center of the platform. It was a Zithran device designed to interface with the planet's ecosystem and the apex predators. It pulsed with energy that connected the jungle's life, the predators, and even the air and soil. He realized that activating it would allow humans to understand Zithra fully, without harming it or its guardians. He turned to Lyra. I can access it. If we do this carefully, we can learn everything. The predators will allow it, as long as we respect their rules. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. Do it, carefully. Kale placed his hands on the platform. The glowing glyphs responded, aligning in patterns that reflected the predator's movements and the natural flow of the jungle. A soft hum filled the clearing, and holographic images of Zithra's ecosystems appeared around them. Data streamed into the team's scanners, information about climate, predator hierarchies, flora, fauna, and even subtle energy flows that powered the jungle itself. Lyra stepped forward on her eyes. This has been credible. With this, we can protect Zithra, learn from it, and ensure that the predators are respected. Kale, this is beyond anything I imagined. Kale smiled faintly. We're not here to dominate. We're here to learn, to coexist. That's what they've always known. And now, we can understand too. The predators remained vigilant, but calm. The alpha gave a low, approving rumble, and Kale understood it as acknowledgement. The creatures recognized his respect, his understanding, and the fact that he had not come to harm. Over the next several hours, Kale and the team collected data, careful not to disturb the jungle or the predators. Every move Kale made seemed to communicate silently with the creatures, and in turn, the predators allowed them access without aggression. Lyra watched him, realizing how much the young rookie had grown. This is more than a mission. Lyra said softly, it's a lesson in humility, patience, and respect. You've not only survived, Kale, you've thrived where most would have failed. Kale shook his head. I didn't do it alone. Zithra taught me. The predators, the jungle, they guided me. By late afternoon, the team had gathered all the data they could safely access. Kale deactivated the Zithran device, and the holograms faded. The clearing was once again alive only with natural light and the soft rustle of the jungle. Lyra approached Kale, her expression proud. You've changed this mission and possibly the way our entire kingdom will see Zithra. You're no longer just a rookie. You're a leader in understanding and survival. Kale glanced toward the shadows where the predators lingered. The alpha watched from the tree line, its massive head tilted in recognition. Kale felt a deep sense of connection. He had earned their respect without violence, without force, and had bridged a gap between human and predator in a way no one thought possible. Ran, still amazed, clapped Kale on the shoulder. I've served with some of the best warriors in the galaxy. None of them could have done what you did. You've proven that courage isn't just about strength, it's about intelligence, observation, and heart. Kale smiled faintly. It's about listening, learning, and understanding that we're visitors in their world, not rulers of it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long golden and violet shadows across the jungle, the team prepared to leave Zithra. The predators stayed at the edge of the clearing, watching silently. Kale gave a slow, respectful bow, and the alpha responded in kind. It was a silent farewell, a mutual acknowledgement of trust. Lyra walked beside Kale as they began their journey back to the starship. Today, you've shown me something I will never forget. The universe isn't conquered through force alone. Sometimes, it's understood through respect. Kale nodded. I've learned more from Zithra than I could from any training manual. And I've learned that even the smallest observation can save lives and build trust. The team reached the shuttle, exhausted but triumphant, as they lifted off from the jungle. Kale looked down at the sprawling forest below. He could feel the predators watching, intelligent and vigilant, guardians of their world. He knew that Zithra would remain wild, untamed, and powerful, but humans had earned a place in its story through understanding, not conquest. Lyra placed a hand on Kel's shoulder, smiling. You started as a rookie. Today, you are more than that. You are a hero, in every sense that matters. Kale glanced at her, humbled. I'm just someone who learned to listen. That's all. The starship soared above Zithra, leaving the jungle behind. But Kel's connection to the world, to the apex predators, and to the lessons of patience, observation, and respect would stay with him forever. He had faced the unknown, earned respect where many would have met danger, and discovered that true strength was measured not by weapons or armor, but by understanding and empathy. Princess Lyra watched him, proud and thoughtful. She knew that the story of this mission would be remembered for generations, not for battles fought or enemies defeated, but for the bridge built between human and predator, between civilization and wild, and between fear and understanding. Kale had passed every test Zithra had set for him. He had become a symbol of what it meant to truly learn from the universe, to respect its creatures, and to grow beyond the limits of training and expectation. The jungle below hummed with life, the predators watching silently, their glowing eyes a reminder that Kel's bravery and understanding had earned a rare honor. He had survived, learned, and emerged not as a rookie, but as a true explorer, a bridge between worlds, and a hero in the truest sense. The adventure had ended, but the legacy of respect, understanding, and courage would continue, and Kale, the once rookie, had proven that sometimes the smallest gestures of insight and empathy could change the course of worlds.